first, I want us to take a look at this first clip from the recount. Our friends over at the recount, they put together a pretty succinct summary. I know most of us know the history of the filibuster, but for those who may not know, that the filibuster is not a part of the Constitution, and it is a Senate rule that can be changed. But more importantly, listen to the history of the beginnings of the filibuster. Let's take a listen to the first part.
Even as Democrats hold unified control of D.C. for the first time since 2010, a cornucopia of liberal priorities, from voting rights to gun safety, are on hold, maybe permanently. The barrier? Mitch McConnell's favorite weapon, the filibuster, and promises from some moderate Democrats that they will protect the Senate rule in the name of bipartisanship. We all know the common arguments for the filibuster. It's part of the Senate's design, it gives a voice to the minority, it promotes working together, but for starters, the filibuster was actually created by mistake. In 1805, Vice President Aaron Burr told senators their rules were redundant, so they axed the one allowing them to end debate, opening the door to the earliest filibuster. But it wasn't for 30 more years that the first one actually occurred. There were only a handful between 1837 and 1917, when the first filibuster reforms passed.
So I think that's the first thing that the people really need to understand is that a lot of times we hear words that seem arcane, they seem permanent, they seem official. The filibuster, when people hear that, Georgia and Pastor Galloway, they really believe that we're working against an institution that is as important as the Constitution, when in fact it is not only not a part of the Constitution, but it is a rule that the senators get to come up with together. I think that's, unfortunately, that's some important context that helped lead us to this kerfuffle, because they're hiding, they being Republicans and Sinema and Manchin, they're hiding behind this idea that the filibuster is so sacred that we can't touch it. I want to go to you first, Pastor Galloway.
Well, I think, one of the things that needs to be important and realize is that the practice of the filibuster is one that was used by segregationists to keep that moving, right? There's these important uses throughout history. I think it also behooves us to understand that there was a bipartisan move to end the filibuster in the 60s, and it was used by Governor George Wallace in his bid for president to campaign against as a sale to get into positional power. And so I think it's very important that we were on the same page. The vote was going to happen. And then segregationists, again, led by George Wallace, the patron saint of segregationists, worked a campaign to keep the filibuster in place, not for any other reason, but to have a foil to work with for his political gain. There was bipartisan. It was the filibuster was all but dead until it was resurrected in that space by Governor Wallace. Now, that's an oversimplification of what happened, but he led the charge in that regard. So this idea that it's sacred, that I like the way that you put that, this idea that it's sacred needs to be debunked, because it hasn't been sacred. In fact, it's been a tool used by folks, in particular as the Black community is concerned, has been a tool to block and keep power as the moral arc of the country continues to move away from these particular thought spaces. I'll also offer that in the illogic conversation piece, that history is on full blast here. As long as I can get the minority leader of the Senate to keep using the filibuster, then I don't have to take a vote on something that is monumental. Right? I don't have to be public. This is also something that mirrors some of that history, because I can hide behind certain views that I can see are becoming uncouth. And I don't have to draw a party line, which would make me then have to contend with that same mentality. George Wallace, one of the things that we don't talk about often is that, as long as he could deliver for this one particular mentality, he was fine. But when he was forced to have to make decisions that actually didn't go along or would upset these folks, the segregationists that were so behind him, he did everything in his power to try to maneuver away from that. So this again, there's a lot of things that mirror that history that are problematic with the filibuster.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to be clear here, Manchin and Sinema want you to think that this is a part of the Constitution and that you can't do anything about it. And the reason being is because the filibuster serves their agenda. And unfortunately, their agenda does not serve the people. And so when you have orders coming down from the president himself saying that we need to do away with this, and then that's followed up by an op-ed, a public op-ed published by the former president, you know, you look at this, all roads are leading to what's best for America, what is best for the people in this country. And once Manchin and Sinema's constituents speak out, or if they're even listening, you know, that is really what should be leading the decisions that they're making. But unfortunately, it's not. And so what we really need to address here is the fact that we have politicians who are in office who are moving by their own accord, moving by their own personal political agendas, and not what's best for the people that they're serving.